Welcome to 2 Minutes of Torah today for Tuesday, April 28th. Hi, Heather. So glad you're joining us. Hi, Eileen. So as Heather mentioned yesterday, we are in a period of time right now known as the Israeli High Holidays. These are a series of national holidays in Israel, which in many ways mimic our religious high holy days. We begin with Yom HaShoah, the Givurot, the Holocaust and Heroism Remembrance Day, which we honored last week. And then they sort of represent next we have Yom HaZikaron, which is today, which is Israel's Day of Remembrance for fallen soldiers and victims of terror. And tomorrow we have Yom HaAtzmaut, celebrating Israel's independence and statehood, which was declared on May 14th, 1948, or the 5th of the Hebrew month of our the Israeli high holidays sort of represent the pinnacle of civil religion in Israel. They're how the country comes together. And just like our own high holidays, they have a little extra bit added on, like we have Sukkot. There is Yom Yerushalayim, or which comes later this month. We'll celebrate it on May 22nd and marks the reunification of Jerusalem after the Six-Day War in 1967. So in honor of our place in this time during the Israeli high holidays, especially as we find ourselves right now at the transition from Yom HaZikaron to Yom HaAtzmaut, the change from Memorial Day to Independence Day, I wanted to highlight the literature of Israel. And even before statehood, modern Hebrew poetry was really a popular mode of communication and a part of the national dialogue, part of the Zionist dialogue. One of the most well-known poets from the pre-state period was Rafael Bluestein. She's often known simply as Rachel, and she made Aliyah with her sister Shoshana in the early 20th century. And Rachel in particular found the home of her heart by the Kinneret, or the Sea of Galilee, at Kibbutz Degania. The sisters embraced modern Hebrew. After they made Aliyah, they refused to speak Russian to one another, and they really committed to it. And eventually, Rachel turned her commitment to modern Hebrew into a tool to express her love of the land and a way to speak to generations of Jews through her poetry. All of us who call Israel the home of our heart, our homeland, or our home across the world, we've heard her poetry, and it speaks to something deep inside of us. Though Rachel loved the Kinneret and the agricultural life that she found at the kibbutz, she actually spent a lot of her adult life away from it. At first, she left to study agricultural techniques in France, and then as a result, she was stuck in Europe during World War I. Later, she was able to return after the war was over, but then she contracted tuberculosis, and was eventually sent away from her beloved kibbutz to try to recuperate in other cities throughout Israel. And she died living away from the kibbutz. She died living away from the Kinneret. And you can hear that loss and the longing in her poetry. I want to read to you one of her most well-known poems called Ve'ulai, and Perhaps. This poem is also sometimes referred to as Kinneret because its simple language so easily connects us to that place. Many guides actually read this poem when taking tour groups to the Kinneret to introduce them to the land and to the poetry of Rachel. Perhaps. Perhaps it was never so. Perhaps I never woke early and went to the fields to labor in the sweat of my brow, nor in the long blazing days of harvest on top of the wagon laden with sheaves made my voice ring with song, nor bathed myself clean in the calm azure water of my Kinneret, oh my Kinneret. Were you there, or did I only dream? You can hear the longing in this poem, Rachel's desire to return to her home. And I picked it for two reasons. One, I thought that this bittersweet language might be a nice way for all of us to transition from the somber severity of Yom HaZikaron to the joy of Yom HaAtzmaut. And two, I think we can all relate to this bittersweet longing right now. We find ourselves asking, was the life we once knew only a dream? We may be longing to go to Israel, to visit the blue of the Kinneret. We may long to connect with our loved ones or a cherished land that's far away. There's so much right now that we're missing, that we're wondering, perhaps it was never so, perhaps it will never be again. And as we wait for answers, we can turn to a rich tradition of Jewish and Israeli poetry and to give language to that which we are experiencing and help us find some sense of meaning in all of this. I will post a link to a page where you can find a few poems by Rafael, including Perhaps. And I hope in the comments today you will share a memory you have of Israel, or a place that you're longing to visit, or something that you're longing to connect with again once this is all over. Perhaps it was never so, and perhaps it will be again. I hope you all have a good day. Bye.